in Liberia. I guess. Anyhow, long story short, folks travel, and they travel legitimately. They travel not to sneak into the country to steal your job, but they travel to come to America to see the sights, visit relatives, do what Americans do the world over, tourism, or just to hang out, or just because they can. I suspect, I don't know a lot about this fella, and I don't think anybody does yet. I suspect he has family over here because of connections with oil. You know, oil's big in Nigeria, oil's big in West Africa. There's a lot of oil going on in that area of the world. And Texas is a big oil state, so there just doesn't seem to me to be coincidence there, but could be completely unrelated as well. So I'm just speculating, just making up as I go along. 717-916-5189, by the way, if you have an opinion on Ebola. Besides, if you have an opinion besides Ebola bad, I'd be shocked. But I mean, opinion on how we should handle it. Let's talk about quarantine for a minute. So what are we going to do with the people that this guy hugged, kissed, cajoled? Did he go to a brothel? Did he go get a legitimate massage, the YMCA? Did he cough or sneeze, bleed or vomit in a cab, on a bus, anywhere else? I don't know. We may never know. But it's 20 days plus until we'll know. And are we really locking people down like we should? I'm a big civil libertarian, but we haven't had to deal with disease of this nature for a very long time in the United States. You know, back before the Revolutionary War, they had yellow fever burning its way through Philadelphia. Yellow fever. Mosquitoes transmitted it. Very cosmopolitan area. We don't have yellow fever in North America pretty much anymore, at least in this portion of North America. Mexico, maybe. Panama Canal killed a lot of people. But my point is, and then we had the influenza in World War I that killed as many people as the guns did. Maybe more, some people estimate. We had the swine flu epidemic. We almost had the swine flu. Kennedy was told at one point the swine flu was going to wipe out millions of people. Anyhow, I digress. We just haven't dealt with a threat of this level. You're worried about the ISIS, the ISIL, whatever the hell they are. Well, I've been worried about the Ebola. And I've been harping on this, I think, since June, the end of June. We'd have to go back and get the dates. But a couple people did post something funny on Facebook. Like, oh, Carl, I thought you were crazy, but I guess it's here now. Yeah, it's here, baby. You knew it was coming. I mean, I think you did. You had to know. The problem is if it goes airborne, where's it going to go airborne for the first time? If it goes airborne for the first time in Dallas, in Houston, anywhere in North Texas, or keep in mind that if a man or a woman can get into the United States and bring Ebola from Africa with them, and we catch it because that's the way we work, we're good. We didn't catch it, by the way. It took a few days, despite all the knowledge being disseminated to the hospitals and the emergency rooms. On the other hand, you don't expect it. It doesn't look like anything. People show up in the emergency room all the time with flu-like symptoms, whining like babies when they should be waiting to go to their primary care physician, running up American health care costs, because that's what we do over here. Side note. But, what if it goes airborne for the first time in Bethesda, Maryland, where somebody's being treated right now? What if it goes airborne for the first time in West Africa? What if it goes airborne for the first time in New Delhi, whatever they call that now? He has a different name, Bombay. No, it's New Delhi, I think, instead of Bombay. I don't know. I get so confused with the world changes with this colonialism being done. You know, the good old days of colonialism. If only we had the good old days of colonialism, you and I would still be British, right? Maybe we're not pro-colonial if that's the case. Although the damn good chutney and tea, I'm sure. My point on all this, though, is what if it goes airborne any place, anytime? What if it happens here? If it goes airborne in some third world slum, if it goes airborne in some African nation, if it goes airborne in Beijing, well, we have a little time to react. But if it goes airborne here, We now know our borders are porous, not from illegal immigrants, by the way, but from legal immigrants coming here. We don't disease check people. And by the way, those of you who are planning to fly to Cancun for your honeymoon or your wedding moon, or just to go to like hedonism and try to hook up or whatever it is you guys are planning to do, or to go to Sandals and take your kids, you'd be indignant at the airport if the Mexicans wanted to give you a quarantine for 21 days before they let you into the country. You would be, absolutely. It doesn't work that way. See, practicalities of international travel. Nobody wants to be quarantined because everybody's healthy. Just ask them. Ask yourself this question. Have you ever kissed a girl or kissed a boy while you had a sore throat? Have you always disclosed your physical ailments to your loved ones and the people around you? Or have you sometimes hidden a cold or a sore throat for your own venal purposes? It's human nature, but think. I don't know. Maybe it's not considerate. But who hasn't been 17 and, had a chance to kiss a girl and thought, well, I might have a cold, but maybe I shouldn't, but maybe I should. I don't know. But I bring it up to point out that the flow of disease is not linear. It's not simple. It's not something you can easily prevent. Not something you can just keep from happening. And it's a dangerous situation because of a pathogen that is incredibly lethal and incredibly contagious under the right circumstances. And, of course, some virologists, we talked about this another week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, it wrote in the New York Times that it may mutate and become airborne. Well, I saw some subsequent stuff where virologists said, well, yeah, but if it does that, it might get weaker. True. So it's only 30% fatal instead of 50 or 70. Big bonus points there. We haven't dealt with a communicable disease in this country that has a high fatality rate. The flu kills lots of old people, young people, occasional people. But in the last few decades, it hasn't really killed anybody en masse. Are we prepared to deal with it? Well, the Department of Transportation is promulgating regulations on how to remove Ebola-infected waste from hospitals, and the CDC is giving advisement to funeral homes on how to deal with Ebola-infected individuals for purposes of burial. And they say this is just a precaution. It's just something we're doing because we can, because we're that prepared, we're that worried, we're that far ahead. Interesting. Yeah, that's quite possible. But what are we so worried about? Why are we making these moves? Now, in the 1950s, they used to show videos of kids with, remember, and some of those you are old enough, and it's very limited because we're an online audience, and I'm sure people that are old enough to remember this can hardly even turn a computer on. And if you're insulted by that, then you can turn the computer on, and you've heard me. Congratulations for you. But people in the 50s, they would do these fire drills. There's been a nuclear attack. And then the kids would get under their desks and, get prepared to ride out the bomb. Ride out the bomb. Sort of like the guy in Dr. Strangelove who's just going to ride the bomb down. We're going to ride out the bomb. Ride it out, because when the nuclear war happens, we got fallout shelters in the basements of schools. We got barrels of water and food in town hall for fallout shelters. Well, what was the truth of the matter? So the government has school children drilling. It's got mom and dad and the township putting their tax dollars to work, getting their fallout shelters ready. And a lot of those probably wouldn't have worked. But they might have worked if you were in the fallout shelter when the bomb hit. You might go, Carl, where are you going with this? Why are you boring me with 1950 nuclear policy? Well, do you know what the American government's position was on what to do when the bombs were launched? Do you know who they were going to alert to the bombs being launched? No one. They made a calculated decision. And you can fact check me on this. Go ahead, Google it. Check this stuff out, kids. We live in a great ability to fact check. It was a policy of the government, a considered policy, that in the case of a nuclear exchange, not to notify the populace. 2 reasons. One is it probably didn't make a difference. At some level, the casualties would be what they were because for the time it would take for the bomber to get here and drop the bomb or the ballistic missile to land a MIRV on top of, say, Atlanta or New Cumberland Army Depot, to think locally, or the Army War College in Carlisle to think even more locally, or Site R down in Adams County. By the way, the wind will blow from there to here, I think, perhaps. Well, they don't want to tell anybody because they made the determination, A, it wouldn't make much difference, and B, actually, if the bombs didn't drop or didn't go off, there'd be more injury from the mass panic and the mass evacuation than there would be otherwise. So the government made a calculated choice to have you and I, the populace, believe that we had fallout shelters available to us and that they were survivable. That was the first lie. The second lie was that they were going to give you one chance to even get into the fallout shelter and protect yourself. That was a lie. Why? Good public policy. Okay, all right, I just drew the dots. I know you know where I'm going at this point, right? Where am I going? Well, in case you can't draw the dots, I guess I have to state the obvious because that's required on the radio or the TV or the internet or whatever the hell this show is. What am I saying? I'll tell you what I'm saying. I'm saying they're lying to you. They're going to tell you it's no big deal. They're going to tell you you have nothing to worry about. They're going to tell you just go about your business. There's nothing to see here. These are not the droids you're looking for. Oh, they're not? Wait, your Jedi tricks don't work on me. I'm that little flying guy, you know? You can't just wave your hand at me and mind trick me. Apparently my biology is different than yours. Ha ha. My point is, the government is not going to tell us the truth. So who can we depend on? Can't depend on me because I don't have all the information. Can't depend on yourself because you don't have all the information. Can't depend on the government because they might have all the information, but then they would lie to you. And if they don't have all the information, they might still lie to you, but even if they told you the truth, they don't have all the information. We're pretty much boxed in here, folks, but here's what we do know. We do know that there is a risk that Ebola could become airborne. We do know that Ebola is probably slightly more contagious than they let on. And we do know that unless they stamp it out very carefully, and think about this, as more and more people on the continent of Africa get infected, the likelihood of the disease jumping to other areas continues to grow. We could see millions of Ebola patients worldwide and thousands or more in the United States. Look how quickly this one person has exposed so many people to this virus. Think about it. Think about it. I'm telling you, they're not telling us everything. Now, again, I'm not going to try to sell you Forsythia. You know, I'm going to take my little dose of Forsythia here, and I didn't die, therefore it must be a good herbal remedy. I don't have that for you. I'll try to find some to market to you. Why not, right? Those of you know who I'm talking about Jude Law's character in the movie, I think it's Outbreak, selling the Forsythia. He's the blogger. However, he catches on early that CDC might not be telling the truth. How far from reality is that? I don't know. I don't know. They could be telling the truth right now, but they're leaving out the part about the virus jumping. But they're definitely loading information out in plain sight, telling trucking companies what they're going to have to comply with to remove Ebola waste from hospitals. Well, you know what? If you had 3 hospitals that need Ebola waste removed, what the hell do you need to put on your website for? Just call the guy up that runs the trucking company that hauls the waste out of those 3 hospitals and say, boys, here's what we're going to do. Or girls, this is what we're going to do. Right? That's what we're going to do. Real simple. These are the regulations. This is what you need to be prepared for. This is how you need to do it. Funeral director. Hey, nobody's died of Ebola yet, but we're just going to put out a nationwide bulletin to all the funeral directors and encourage them to handle Ebola-infected people this way. Well, if we're only going to have 3 or 4 Ebola-infected people and only 1 or 2 of them are going to die, why the hell do we have to tell all the funeral directors? You know what I mean? By the way, if you do want to get in on the conversation, 717-916-5189.